Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another analysis, or welcome back to another episode of Knockout Analysis, presented by CronYo Media. I am your host, Paul Craig. This is your co-host, Whit Barnes, cosplaying as Nursultan Ruzabayev for this week's festivities. My actual name is Cron. Address me as such. Well, Whit, UFC 315 has come and gone. What are your thoughts?
I thought it was going to be a little bit of a closer fight. I think the judges saw it as a closer fight, but Jack Della Maddalena got it done. That's a fight that I initially thought that Bilal was going to walk through whenever I heard it announced back in February. And I actually had a guy quote my tweet from my burner MMA account and make fun of me. And I was like, well, I changed my prediction, man. So that's an old tweet, but JDM did his thing. It was a beautiful card. It was much better than a lot of people had anticipated, and now we have the card that is UFC Vegas 106.
An absolute unfortunate card it is. I think the most surprising part about UFC 315 was Marc-Andre Barrios literally crushing a man's skull. That was unfortunate for that man. Hope he's doing all right, but he got absolutely hornswoggled, and there's not much else to say other than that. Skull crushed and eliminated from the UFC roster is a diabolical combo.
I
That
think
being
Mark
said,
Andre Barrios' fate's even worse
oh
from
yeah,
what we found out.
let's not. Big fight news today got dropped in the UFC on May 13th, 2025. We'll get into that a little bit later on as we go, but Andre Barrios may have gotten a worse fate, for sure. So we'll move on. As Whit said, this is an Apex card, a very unfortunate one, but we must talk about it no matter what. Kicking off the event, we have number 13th ranked Tasha Pennington facing number 15 Luana Pinheiro. This is a battle of United States versus Brazil. 14-7 record for Pennington, 11-4 for Luana. Coming off of a win is Pennington, a loss for Pinheiro. Obviously, these girls are going to be pretty close. All the women usually are pretty close as far as measurables go. Pennington, nicknamed Tiny Tornado, with her 14-7 record as previously mentioned. She's coming off of 2 straight losses and then 1 win, all of which were decisions. She's not much of a finisher. She has 1 win by knockout and 1 win by submission in her 14 wins. So a decision merchant, to say the absolute least. This will be my first time getting to see her fight. I have never seen her fight before. Pinheiro has no nickname. She is much better looking, and she has 7 finishes in her 11 wins. This being said, her last fight was a loss to Robertson, which is not a bad loss considering what we've seen in the past couple weeks. But she's lost her last 3 fights in a row, one of which by knockout, one of which by submission, and one of which by decision. I think she breaks the streak here, and I think she gets finish number 8 here, and I think she does it late in the second round.
Yeah, as you just mentioned, Luana Pinheiro has been through the cycle. She got subbed, she got finished, and she got decisioned. And as also previously mentioned, she is the more attractive fighter, which I think is very bad for women's MMA. And Tisha Pennington, I did watch her fight at 307. It's Carlos Esparza's retirement fight, and she made it look pretty easy. It was a pretty cut and dry decision. I liked what I saw there. It's a toss-up. It's women's MMA, but I'm going to have to go with her, man.
So you got Pennington?
Indeed.
Look at that. No more agreeing on the first 6 fights like we have the last couple. We have a disagreement on the first fight. Next fight, we have a flyweight bout. We have Hung Hyung Sung Park versus Carlos Hernandez. These guys, as previously mentioned, both in the flyweight division. Undefeated is Park, 9-0, 10-4 for Hernandez. The South Korean native is Park, if you couldn't already guess that by the name. These guys are pretty much even in all the measurables again. Park calls himself Peace of Mind. He has 9 wins and 8 finishes. His last fight came as a second round second round knockout for the nickname the Turkish Delight, Shannon Ross. In his fight before that, he beat Choi, Sungkok Choi, sure, by submission via the third round. So, hot streak for him, nine professional wins in a row, 2 of which have been in the UFC. Carlos Hernandez has 4 finishes in his 10 wins, so a 40% finish rate. He is 1-2 in his last 3 fights. He lost his last fight to Art of Knockout. But is all he fights Asians, bro?
Yeah. Yeah, that was about to be.
Bro, is
That
this
was
guy?
about to be my point, man.
Oh, this guy only fights Asians, bro. This is insane.
Mm-hmm.
He won his last fight via split decision against the Art of Knockout, who did not knock out him. And then he lost his fight before that to Ray Tsuruya. I'm pretty
Nice.
sure. If I had to guess, that guy's from Japan just off the way he looks. But that being said, I don't see any reason why Park can't continue his undefeated streak in this one. I'm going to say he wins this fight 29-28 and goes to 10-0. Probably gets a look at the rankings here soon.
And man, I look at this fight, and Carlos Hernandez is the Asian, he is the Asian border patrol for the UFC in a sense. Tyra,
Yep.
Saruya, Naim Yargo, Tuin Dimbrell. I practiced that one in the mirror. Tatsuro Taira, he was already pretty established. That was like his 5th fight. Carlos Hernandez, he's not the most exciting guy. He's not great in any area. He's a better wrestler than he is a striker, but he is serviceable. People are probably never going to pay tickets to see him, and he's probably never going to reach the top 15. But he can beat jobbers, I think that's in his arsenal. Tatsuro Taira was, like 14-0, 13-0. He's undefeated. He's undefeated in Asian, right? Ray Saruya, undefeated young prospect, 22-0. Very good wrestler. That fight played out pretty close, but Saruya got the best of him near the end. And Naim Yargo, Tumen Dimbrell, he was able to take advantage of him in the wrestling there. And if wrestling's really your only base when you're going down to flyweight, you're not going to have a whole lot of success because all these guys are very good on the ground. And Carlos Hernandez, I don't think he's any. I don't think is really any major holes in his game unless you're just an elite wrestler like a Tyra and a Saruya. Hyun Sung Park, he hasn't been in here for about 16 to 18 months. His level of competition is very questionable, Road to UFC, I've talked about how I don't think it's that great on previous episodes. We can put an asterisk by the light heavyweight road to UFC, whatever his name was. We talked about Zhang Min Yang. We can put an asterisk by him for now. But I'm not really sold on a lot of these dudes. Shannon Ross might have been probably the worst flyweight ever. Shannon Ross, and there's another Hispanic dude whose name I can't remember. Both had some of the worst UFC runs ever. He went 0-4. He lost all of his fights by knockout. I think Carlos Hernandez might have even finished him as well. Hyun Sung Park, he's never seen a guy like Carlos Hernandez. and he's gonna be my upset pick of the card, and I'm gonna pick him to win this by probably a split decision.
There you have it, folks. Go ahead and move us on to the next one, Mr. Barnes, where we have
Indeed,
a heavy favorite. Heavy favorite.
indeed.
Oh, and by the way, going back to two things. One, last fight card, Mr. Barnes said that if Prepelec made it out of the first round, he'd be impressed. He did. And two, he said that he could put an asterisk next to Zhang Yang's head, but the top of Anthony Smith's head cannot put an asterisk next to it,
Indeed, he
unfortunately.
can. Maybe one of these days, man. I mean, Zaman Yang will be getting the Jonathan Walker treatment, according to sources. So we'll see what he can do, how he can knock him out, what creative way he can get it done.
Yeah.
But for now, we got Denise Gomes and Elise Reed. Denise Gomes has kind of failed against the elite fighters in the division, but she's been able to put down fighters that aren't at that level, that are subpar to say the least. And since Elise Reed's been in the UFC, she has not won or lost two fights in a row. And that gives me enough reason to believe that that streak's going to continue. I would never take a women's UFC fighter at minus 650. That's absolutely absurd, especially when one of them, either of them ranked. I know you're doing this from UFC.
I know neither of these ones are ranked.
Yeah, I'm not taking an unranked battle. Minus 650. Denise
There's
Combs. I will pick her to win this fight. I think she'll probably hold her down and win a 30-27 decision. I don't see a finish in this fight, but I think Elise Reed, she is not going to put together a win streak on this one.
fun fact, there's only two ranked fights on this card, and we've already talked about one of them.
Sheesh.
So, moving on to what you said about Denise Gomes. Yeah, she has had a couple failures, if you will. She has 3 losses in her career, but she's beaten some okay names. I mean, she's knocked out Bruna Brazil. She has a 20-second knockout of Yasmin Jarouji. I mean, so she's got some impressive wins under her belt, but she also has the decisions. Whereas Elise Reed, her record kind of speaks for itself. She's 8-4, but like you said, she's win loss win loss win loss. She lost to Luma Look Here and Bone Me, who we've talked about on a previous card. She lost to Jessica Penne, who is a 2-star fighter or 2.5-star fighter on UFC 5. Or she beat her. My fault. My fault. She lost to Lupi Godinez, who she submitted her. Both of her losses in her last 5 fights have been by submission. So she's not very good when it comes to getting on the ground. She's an MMA fighter by trade. I don't think any of that matters. I think this is a pretty easy fight for Denise Gomes, and she's going to win this however she damn well pleases. So we'll move on now to the next fight, who is another women's fight in the bantamweight division. We have Luana Santos versus Tainara Lisboa. Brazilian on Brazilian crime here. This is, if I am correct, I believe this is the closest fight on betting odds that we've had so far. 8-2 record for Santos and a 7-2 record for Lisboa. Santos coming off of a loss in her last fight, and Lisboa coming off of a win in her last fight. So these people had opposite results in their last fight. 4 submission finishes for Santos, so she's finished half of the fights that she's won. That being said, she's 2-1 in her last 3 fights. The person that she lost to looks like Sony Michelle, just more attractive. And then if we go to Lisboa, let's see, she is 2-0 in the UFC, so she's having a pretty good start to her UFC career. She calls herself the Thai Panther. I see that she's listed as an underdog in this fight. I'm going to take her to win this fight, and I think she finishes this fight as well. I think she's going to rear naked choke Santos in the third round.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think we're gonna agree on the underdog here. I respect that Luana Santos has hit for the cycle, getting a submission, decision, and KO victory in 3 fights. But she lost to Casey O'Neill, and who the fuck's Casey O'Neill? I've watched this sport quite often. I do not remember her fighting, and that's very sketchy, considering you're a minus 170 favorite in this fight. Lisboa has yet to lose. She's finished 6 out of 7 of her fights. I think it's pretty cut and dry here. I could see a knockout in the second round from her.
You got knockout, I got submission, and we'll move on to the next one. We got Yadier Del Valle versus Connor Matthews. Cuba versus the United States. What an absolute throwback. I believe this guy has got a better record than 1-0. He just must be from the Contender Series.
He's
so
8
what
now.
is his actual? He's 8-0. Okay, so 8-0 in his UFC, or 8-0 in his professional MMA career. He did come off of a unanimous decision win in the Dana White Contender Series. So this is his actual UFC debut. And he will be debuting against Connor Matthews, who holds a 7-3 record, coming off of a loss in his last fight. These guys, again, with the measurables, pretty close. 2-inch reach advantage for Matthews. We got the controller is what Matthews calls himself. He has 6 finishes in his 7 wins. He is 0-2 in the UFC. His losses coming to Dennis Bazooka, the Great, and then he also lost to Jose Miguel Delgado. So this guy's 0-2, looking to turn that around. He lost both of those fights by knockout. And then Yadier Del Valle, in his career, he has 2 knockouts and 2 submissions, so 50% finish rate. We know how sketchy making a UFC debut can be. This guy is fighting in his motherland, Connor Matthews is, and Del Valle has to come from Cuba to make his UFC debut against a guy fighting in his motherland. I'm going to go ahead and take Connor Matthews in this fight, but I do not see a finish in this fight. I got a 29-28. I think Del Valle steals around from him.
USA, USA. I think Del Valle is going to shoot the missile, man. I don't think he's going to land it. I don't see a finish from him. He has not really been a fight finisher. It's been 50-50 here early in his career. I remember his fight from the Contender Series. It wasn't the most eventful card, but he fought a guy that had 17 wins, and he was not the favorite in that fight. And he out-volumed the absolute shit out of him. He landed like 180 significant strikes and didn't get the knockout. I don't know if he's going to have that type of performance against Matthews. Matthews has been very hittable. He got knocked out very early in his last fight, as previously mentioned. He got hit with the left hook, and then he got finished on the ground. And Dennis Bazooka is also a concerning person to get knocked out by. So, Connor Matthews, he is fighting for his UFC roster spot the way I see it. These contracts are usually only 3 fights off the Contender Series, especially because he won by decision in that fight as well. I don't think he's going to throw with enough volume to be able to pull this out. I do see him to go decision. I'm going to go 30-27 the other way for the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Please, is that what he calls himself?
It says, I think it's the Cuban problem.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the Cuban
that'd be
problem.
an incredible name.
Indeed.
We have what appears to be an even fight on paper. I'm going to let you talk about this one first.
Yeah, man. I mean, Jared Gordon's been out this for a minute. He's 36. Yeah, a lot of people think he got robbed in the Pimblett fight. I haven't watched that one all the way through to be able to tell you. It's been quite some time. It's been many moons, many sleeps. He's had some weird things happen to him his last few fights. The King Green no contest. He beat Marco Madsen, which is cool, and he got a split decision by Hack Parast. He doesn't throw with a whole lot of volume, and he does have power. And he is able to sting guys. He is able to exploit people that are either too active or don't have great defense. But he's at a point to where what's he really fighting for at 36? He's probably not going to be ranked, and he's fighting a guy that I think is pretty hungry. He was in the prime of his career in Thiago Moises, who has really only lost to some of the best guys in the world. Dariush, Makachev, Alvarez, Demir Magasulov. Wonder what he's doing nowadays. Great fighter. Benoit Saint Denis, Ludovic Klein, who's about to have a great opportunity 2 weeks from now. I just don't see him losing. I don't see him, especially after his performance against Trey Ogden losing. Trey Ogden's a very decent grappler, a decent fighter. I think he's around the same style that our friend, what's his damn name, Jared Gordon is. I think he's going to be able to out grapple him, and wherever this fight goes, he's going to have some level of advantage. But it does only take one punch, and I think Gordon does have that kind of power, and he does have that kind of timing. But I just don't really see it happening, and I think Moises is going to have a 29-28 decision.
Is Moises coming up a weight class?
No,
Because
I do
on
not
here
believe
it
he
has
is.
him listed. It has Flash Gordon listed at 174, and it has him listed at 156. But I'm with you pretty much. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about this. Jared Gordon's an unk. It's probably one of his last fights because, as you said, what's he fighting for? He's not making the rankings if he doesn't win here. Even if he wins here, he's got a long road ahead. Probably another fight or two before he gets in the rankings, and he'll be pushing 40 at that point. It's probably time to just hang him up. You've made a lot of money in your UFC career, I'm sure, so go enjoy that time with your family because Thiago Moises is about to rudely awaken you. We'll move on now to Gabe Green versus Mateus Camilo. I believe this is a UFC debut once more for Camilo. 9-2 record for him in his MMA career. He's won 5 straight fights in a row. He's coming from ZFN. It looks like it's the last promotion that he fought in. He's a favorite in this fight. He's a minus 190, I believe. No, minus 235. So 2-1 favorite in this one. I don't really see a whole lot of information on him to figure out why he would be a favorite. But he's facing Gabe Green. Gabe Green with an 11-5 record. Gabe Green calls himself gifted. He has 10 finishes in his 11 wins. He has 5 first round finishes in those 11 finishes, coming off of a loss in, yeah, I saw that right, 14 seconds from Brian Battle.
The
He,
Butcher.
he knocked him out. Lost to Machado Gary, who just had a big win on a card. And then he beat Johan Lanice, the White Lion. So he's 1-2 in his last 3 fights, but his 2 losses coming, well, one of them coming to a good competition, and the other one, say what you will. I think Brian Battle's pretty good, so he's got a couple decent losses if you could consider any loss a decent one. I don't really see anything about Matias here that's going to lead me to believe that he can beat Gabe Green. I think that Gabe Green wins this fight, but I see no finish. I see probably a 30-27.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna kind of have to agree in a sense. This line doesn't really make a whole lot of Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense from Vegas. I know the backstory behind Camilo a little bit. Nabatov at the ZFN event came to a press conference at UFC 308, and he asked Dana White for an opportunity to be in the UFC. He said he'd even fight at
Is
308.
that him?
Yeah, that is him. And he went to that ZFN promotion. He was a complete asshole, pretty much, and he ended up losing the fight. Dana said before this fight that the winner of it would get a chance in the UFC, and that's why Mateus Camilo is here. It's confusing. I think this deserves a much closer line. Gabe Green has been on a long layoff. He is coming down a weight class as well, based off his opponents. Brian Battle is a welterweight. Machado Gary's a welterweight. Phil Rowe, D-Rod, they're all welterweights. I think he did used to fight at lightweight because Jalen Turner down here in Bellator in 2017, he was able to beat. Let me get some. Let me see if this is a lightweight bout. Will it tell me? Yeah, no, the Bellator information on ESPN is not very helpful whatsoever. But Gabe Green coming off a long layoff, and before that, another year layoff. He's 32. He's in the prime of his career based off of his age. He doesn't seem to have a whole lot of fights unless he has a lot of amateur fights that are unlisted here. I don't really see how he loses. Camilo is young. He does have a lot less tread on his tires, but I don't see Camilo being to the level of the competition that Green's lost to. I think it's going to be a close fight. I think it'd be a 29-28 split for Gabe Green, one way or another. And Camilo, we'll see what the rest of his career does, but I just don't see him winning, and the line doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, Cron.
Yeah, it's a little interesting for sure. So what you said is that guy that asked for the chance at the UFC fight or at the UFC press conference went to fight this guy and lost. So that's why this guy's in the UFC.
Yes.
Sick. What an absolute tool. We have a monumental moment in CronYo media and knockout analysis history. We have the first fight of fighters that we've previously talked about fighting each other. We got Juicy J Julian Erosa fighting Milk Coffee Melquiziel Costa. Now, this first caught my attention because I remember Costa having the crazy hair and winning his last fight against Rodriguez and the fight card that happened the week after Leon Brady got starched in London. So, again, we have an Unk and Julian Erosa, 31-12 in his last whatever many fights. Fucking dude's been fighting since Stegosaurus has walked the earth. He has 26 finishes and 31 wins. He beat Darren Elkins was who he beat in the UFC 314 card. I want to say he knocked him out. Yes, he did. He knocked him out in round 1. I do recall that fight. Julian Erosa versus Melquizael Costa. 23-7 record for Costa. Much younger, if my memory suits me correct.
28.
Yeah, much younger. So, this fight is going to be a good one. I think this has potential to possibly be fight of the night because Julian Erosa can take some hits, man. And Melquizael Costa, he's very good at fighting. So I think this is going to be an interesting one. I don't see this fight ending without a finish. I'm going to say that Julian Erosa sneaks out a second round finish. Knockout.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting fight. I think this could spend some time on the ground. Julian Erosa, I picked against him in his last fight. Costa, I picked against him twice this year, quite frankly, and he won both of them. So it's kind of like a unstoppable force versus an immovable object for me as far as picks go. They do have a common win, Christian Rodriguez, within the last 12 months, not the calendar year, but the last 12 months. And Julian Erosa, like I believe I mentioned the 314 breakdown, he's one of those like weird ass fighters where he's just gonna beat somebody that he shouldn't beat, and then he's gonna lose to some guy he wouldn't lose to 9 times out of 10. And this is a guy, Costa. I just think it's a guy he shouldn't beat. Costa's on a tear. This is his third fight this year. He's looked really good. He made Andre Touchy Feely look quite easy. He had a great first 2 rounds against Christian Rodriguez until Christian Rodriguez finally realized he was in an octagon and took away the third round, but wasn't enough. Acosta, he's young, he's hungry, he's in here to go to war with people. He hasn't gotten hurt too bad considering the Feely fight was quite quick, and the Christian Rodriguez, he didn't take a whole lot of damage at all. I don't think Julian Erosa is too threatening on the feet. I think he's going to have the advantage there. And also, I just don't think either of these guys will be able to sub each other. I think it'll be a battle for control. But I could also see Costa pulling off a spinning elbow or some crazy wicked ass strike. I'm going to pick him to take this to decision. I think it'll be a split 29-28 for Costa.
The Costa fights out of that shoot box thing or whatever, right? The one that you said throws all them crazy shits.
They throw a bunch of crazy subs, crazy elbows, whole 9 yards.
Oh man, we have reached Whit's pinnacle of the event, so go ahead and get us started on this one.
I think we have an absolute fucking war on the horizon. This fight should be in front of more than 20 people, if you ask me. This could be an early prelim headliner. This could be in the middle of the prelims.
We need to
But
talk about something real quick.
okay.
Myself and Mr. Barnes, we are avid indulgers of video games. We played UFC last night, and we came up with a little idea. Let's play UFC against each other in the Apex using only Apex level fighters. The UFC doesn't even like the Apex, buddy. They didn't even bother giving us an announcer for the UFC fights that we were having in the Apex. All we heard was the crowd noise from all 5 people in attendance, and it was the same thing. Kill that guy. Hurt him. It
do it
sounded
for the
like,
children.
yeah, do it for the children was the craziest one. But I just had to get that out of the way. Banish the Apex.
No, there's way too many people in the damn Apex on that game too.
Bro, there's too much noise.
There's too many rows of chairs, man. But this is one of those fights that shouldn't be in the Apex. But I think it's going to be a war. Ruzaboyev, he's had so many damn fights, dude. In the last 11 years, this guy's had 46 pro fights. That's just mad respectable, man. From top to bottom, a lot of these aren't promotions I've heard of. Braves, he's fight one fight at Brave. He's had a fight at Octagon. Cool. It's very respectable. And he's also knocked out Bruno Ferreira. He's been a very decent fighter. Was one of the 3 people to put away Cedricus Dumas. And his most recent fight was kind of weird. It was on that Seattle card, and Eric McConaughey was a late replacement who was fighting down a weight class. He's a 6-foot fighter fighting down a weight class. He's a light heavyweight. And Ruzaboyev 6'5" fighting at middleweight. So it was kind of strange. He made him look pretty easy, as he should have, for some dude coming on short notice off the regional scene. And Dustin Stoltzfus, he's kind of in a different spot in his career. He's had a lot of wars. He's been in the UFC for some time, I believe. Yeah, he's been in here since 2021. He's lost a lot of fights. He's won against not the greatest of fighters, truthfully. I remember in that Marc-Andre Barrios fight on the Moreno Albazi card in Canada that he was a massive underdog and he came out there and he knocked Andre Barrios out in his motherland, which was a big moment for him in his career because I think he'd be facing being relieved of his UFC contract at this point. But he's been very entertaining. He's been very active, and I think the UFC will keep him around no matter the result. But Ruzaboev, I'm going to say, because of his insane activity over the last 11 years, and his only loss to being to Joaquin Buckley, who is likely to be in a title eliminator against Kamaru Usman here in a few months, and he didn't get finished by him. I'm gonna be tickled and impressed by that, and pick him to knock out Dustin Stoltzfus round one.
I think I have to agree for the most part. We have 9 finishes and 16 wins for Stoltzfus. But if you look at your boy, he has 35 wins and I believe 33 finishes. Mind you, the competition level, as you said, a little bit suspect in the earlier part of his career. But 25 first round finishes and his 35 wins. I think he does get 26 here, and I say about 4.5 minutes into the first round, the ref has to step in and stop the fight because he's getting ground and pounded in a very, very vulgar way.
All 20 people in the Apex will be going crazy.
Yeah, they will be going crazy in the chat. We'll move on now to another fight here in the lightweight division. We got Sodiq Yusuff, the Sodiq Super Yusuff out of Nigeria. He will be facing Myron Santos, the legend, as he calls himself. 16-1 record for Santos with 12 finishes. And for Yusuff with his 13-4 record, housing 6 finishes, 5 in the first round. His last fight his last fight was a first round knockout loss to Diego Lopez, who just fought for a title not long ago, so that's not a horrible loss. Edson Barboza, he took a loss to him via unanimous decision. Before that, he had beat Don Shamus, or Shameless as he calls himself. So 1-2 in his last 3 fights. He's coming in, as previously mentioned, facing Myron Santos out of Brazil with a 16-1 record. Holy crap, this computer's pissing me off. He's 2-0 in the UFC. I see no reason why he can't be 3-0 here. I think he's going to win this fight, and he's going to win it by knockout and extend his streak to 5. I think this is a early third round TKO.
You just pick Santos? Shit. We're going to be beefing again, Cron, because I might have to fade you on that one. You know, I have been very vocal about the Ultimate Fighter's lack of competition. And even though he did come out and beat Francis Marshall, it was massively contested by fans and media alike. And Myron Santos came out and even said, I don't think I won that fight. And I don't really like that mentality from a fighter, dude. Even if you got a robbery decision, own the win and act like you won. Like, stand on business and be like, oh yeah, I thought I did this, this, and this, and I won. I think I outvolued him. I think I landed this damaging strike, and I beat him. Because Francis Marshall, I was sitting there watching it, and I thought Francis Marshall won. I didn't even have a horse in the race. This was on the Pereira card. But I like that he's getting back in there. Sodiq Yusuff, I think this is a massive step up in competition for him. Yusuff was very good at featherweight. He has a lot more experience against very high level guys. Caceres is a good one. Andre Touchy-Feely is a good one, especially in that time period. And then he's beaten some lower level guys as well. Losing to, as you mentioned, losing to Diego, Edson, and Arnold Billy Allen. Please come back, Arnold. We miss you. Losing to those guys, I don't think there's any shame in it. I think he's gonna have the power advantage in this fight. And if he pushes the pace like Francis Marshall did, I don't see him having a whole lot of issues getting Myron Santos out of here in the second or third. It's another underdog that I'm going to be picking. It's not a massive underdog. He's a plus 105. I believe he opened around a plus 130, so the public has been backing Yusuf to win this against Myron. I'm not super impressed with him after the last fight. Not impressed with the mentality. I'm concerned. And Sadiq Yusuf, I think he's going to sneak out a KO here in the second. Moment of silence for Cron here. I'll give him some space and some time for this one.
Oh boy. We have reached my pinnacle of the event. What are some things that Scotland's known for, Whit? Cool accent. That guy from the fertilizer commercials. Not being British, but sounding like they're British. Not being Irish, sounding like they're Irish. Producing fucking bums like Paul Craig in the MMA world is what I think about when I think of Scotland. Let's get this started. Paul Craig, your reckoning has arrived. Let's go down the list of your inconsistencies in your UFC career. As previously mentioned, Whit said you had the worst kickboxing match of all time against the fraudulent Bo Nickel, who just recently lost. Cool, we'll let that one slide, because he's a fraud too. In your UFC career, you've been at it a long time, haven't you? You lost your first fight by knockout. You lost your second fight by knockout. You were well on your way to losing your third fight by horrendously unanimous decision to the current champion, Ankalaev. But somehow Ankalaev got too sloppy and you're too good at jiu-jitsu that you kicked this dude in the face and put him in an arm bar and made him tap almost immediately. Then you lose at your own game and you get submitted by Jimmy Crute. I don't even know if he's in the UFC anymore. Then you fight Kennedy and Nzechukwu and submit him. Cool. Then you fight who is this? Minifield? Yeah, you fight Minifield and you lose that fight. You lose that fight by first round knockout. So your inconsistencies are already starting to show in this fight. Then let's get up to a little sooner or later in your career. You fight Jamal Hill, cool. You knock him out. One of your better knockouts. Then you face Nikita Krylov, submit him in the first round. You lose to Uzdemir. You fight the cartoon that is Johnny Walker, get knocked out. You fight Muniz, knock him out. Then you fight Brendan Allen here, all in Allen. Lose by submission, again at your own game. Fight a fighting nerd, Borraholo. Lose by knockout. Then you fight Bo Nickel. You're so inconsistent. You treat every fight like it's an open mat BJJ match. You sit on your ass and wait for people to come into your guard. And you wait for them to try to do, and then when you wait for them to get in your guard, you still find a way to get submitted. It's actually mesmerizing how bad you are in the UFC. You probably were really good in the regional scenes whenever you were younger because there was no one else that was good at jiu-jitsu. You're a fraud. I hope you lose this fight. And it's very, very unfortunate that I used up all of my anger and hatred towards Bilal Muhammad last week, and I don't have very much left to give you. All this being said, you're facing now another Brazilian. You're facing Rodolfo Bellato, who looks like the Crimson Chin. He calls himself either traitor or traitor, not sure what he was going for there. That same guy that submitted you, Crute, he goes to a decision majority draw and then he wins by knockout to Potiera. He's a 5-1 favorite against you. I love that line. That being said, Paul Craig wins this fight by heel hook submission.
Oh, Craig with his value. Sheesh. I will say, man, a worthy stat. I was looking through these in the midst. First of all, shout out to Jimmy Crute, man. He's a great guy. I hope he fights again soon. Went to a very weird draw, actually, with Bellato. Very weird draw, which I'll mention in a second. But the stat I was looking at. In his UFC career, Paul Craig is 3-1 against Brazilians. His only loss being Caio Baralho. So, do with that what you will.
Shout out
I
the
mean,
fighting nerds.
uh, yeah, those dudes are too smart to get subbed. To get into Paul Craig's guard, you know. Rodolfo Bellato, um, he's obviously a lot younger. He's 29. Io Pateria kind of got knocked out by everybody after what he did to Shogun Rua. After emoting on him, every Brazilian in the world decided that they wanted to punish the shit out of him and they were knocking him out. So Rodolfo Bellato was a part of that. He was a part of that parade against Io Pateria. The Jimmy Crute fight, he got the absolute shit beat out of him in the first round. I think he got outstruck. On the broadcast, I remember watching it. I couldn't believe my eyes. I had to take my contacts out, put it back in. He got outstruck 47-2 in the first round. Got 10-8'd, and Jimmy Crute was gassed. And somehow Bellato was still standing and throwing bricks at him. And I thought he lost the second or the third. I don't really remember. I was pretty faded that night. And yeah, they gave him a draw. Somebody gave Jimmy Crute 29-27. The other people were like, yeah, this is a 28-28 fight. It was very close, very unique fight, an absolute war to say the least. But, you know, he's fighting Paul Craig. You know, my only concern for Paul Craig in this fight is Bellato is like too unknown of a name for him to beat, right? This guy's beaten 3 champions. He's beaten Ankalaev. He broke Jamal Hill's arm. And he's beaten Mauricio Shogun Rua. On top of that, he's beaten a lot of highly ranked fighters. He's returning to his natural weight class where he had a lot of success or a decent level of success before going down to middleweight and getting mogged on. I would never in my life make Rodolfo Bellato a 5.5-1 favorite. Never. Like, not even once. That's kind of absurd. But I do think he has a very sizable advantage on the feet. Man, if you're dumb enough to get hit in the head 47 times in a fight, I think you're dumb enough. Well, in the first round of a fight, 5 minutes of a fight, I think you're also dumb enough to get submitted by a guy that's submitted all these big names. Where's the
Don't
coin,
get us
man?
wrong, man. Paul Craig is a world-class jiu-jitsu specialist. There's no denying that. He's world-class
Where's
when it
this?
comes to jiu-jitsu.
Here,
Oh, hell.
call it, Cron.
Hells.
Heads. I dropped the coin. Hold on.
Yeah, heads.
I'm taking Rodolfo Bellato to win this fight.
But again, don't get us wrong. We know that Paul Craig is a world-class jiu-jitsu specialist. He's very good. And if it's just jiu-jitsu, he'd probably be a world champion. He probably is a world champion somewhere in just jiu-jitsu. But this isn't just jiu-jitsu. This is mixed martial arts. Paul Craig is a known horrendous striker. And you've got to sharpen those things up if you want to be successful in the UFC. Unfortunately, I believe Paul Craig's time to make a run at the title shot has already passed. He probably didn't take it serious enough because with his grappling ability, if he would have sharpened up his striking, he could have made a real run at it because he had some really good submissions back to back. So, but unfortunately, he didn't take it serious, and this is where he's at now. And I still have him winning this fight by heel hook submission.
Something else to mention about Paul Craig. He was talking about retiring like 4 years ago. and he hasn't been great the last 4 years. So maybe his heart necessarily isn't in it anymore. Maybe he's just trying to come up here, string off a win or two, and go back to Scotland and drink some fucking Guinness or whatever they drink over there. Maybe that's an Irish thing,
I
but
think they drink fertilizer.
the fertilizer or whatever they drink over there. But we'll see. I think it's a coin flip. If you bet on Adolfo Bellato, you have about a 50-50 chance of losing. Well, if you want to win $100, you have a 50-50 chance of losing $550. So it's not financial advice, but I wouldn't recommend doing such. Not at all.
My Lord Almighty. We have moved on to the pinnacle of the event.
Indeed.
We have a massive favorite in the main event. I'm going to let you get started because usually when there's a massive favorite like this, you usually have a lot to say about it.
I mean, I don't love the line. I think that there's been fans of the show out there. They knew I was going to say that, coming into this. Michael Morales is a great athlete. He is big for this division. Like, you look at him fight, like, this dude has muscles on top of his muscles. Like, he's a scary guy, truthfully. And he's had a decent little run here in the UFC to start out. Trevin Giles is no bomb. Trevin Giles does have no chin, and that is his biggest kryptonite. Max Griffin's a seasoned vet. It took him to decision, but he's seasoned. And his last two wins, Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews is a game in any fight. To be able to go out there and beat him by decision is something that impresses me to some degree. And beating Neil Magny to get ranked, I think Neil Magny was like the 13th, 14th ranked fighter at the time. Time flies. You fall fast too. Neil Magny, he made him look really easy. Got him out of there in the first round. Was able to get him face down on the ground and clobbered him by TKO. He's looked really good. He's 17-0 for a reason. But this guy goes out there and he just imposes his will and his immense amount of physicality, his high-level jiu-jitsu. He has very good boxing as well. Not JDM level, but he's 25. He's got plenty of time to develop. And not to mention, this dude has a reach of a light heavyweight. The 79-inch reach at 6 foot is insane. Like, this dude has long-ass arms, right? And he's an impressive specimen. But you
There's
look at
no
Gilbert
way that's
Burns.
accurate.
What?
It's showing that Neil Magny has a 3-second knockout against Craig White. But if you look at the scorecards of the fight, it says that Neil Magny landed 40 shots and the other guy landed 13. You can't land 53 strikes in 3 seconds. That's definitely...
Was this a UFC? Oh, well, most of his damn fights are UFC. Let me see. What year was it?
It was
2018.
2018.
Yeah. No, it's 4 minutes and 32 seconds is what ESPN says. That sounds more accurate to what you're describing.
Yeah, my bad. I saw that and I was like, there ain't no fucking... But that just shows you how long Neil Magny's been fighting. I've been going down that rabbit hole for a minute.
Yeah, Neil Magny's been doing this forever. So is Gilbert Dorino Burns, man. Gilbert Dorino Burns. He's been on a little bit of a slide. It's been against great fighters. Well, two great fighters. He lost to the guy that lost to JDM on Saturday. He lost to JDM, the current champion. And he's lost to Sean Brady, which is a very impressive showing for Sean Brady. 49-46, and made him look pretty easy. This will be... I can't even say if this is going to be an easier fight than these other three guys. That's how good I think Morales is. Morales could finish him on the feet, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Gilbert Burns is very good about not getting KO'd on the feet. I think Dan Hooker's the only person to be able to do it. And that was down a weight class, from what I know. I think this will be a decision. This will be like a chess match for both of these guys. It's not going to be fireworks or anything. I think that's probably why it was removed from the pay-per-view, and they said, fuck it, let's go get some more money. on a Apex card. Even though this would have been a very high leverage fight that a lot of people want to see, and people will want to see this fight. I think Morales is going to win. I think this is going to be 49-46, 48-47 decision for him. I think it's a crazy line. Nobody should be a minus 850 against Gilbert Burns. There's no value there. Gilbert Burns may not be a Hall of Famer. He's going to be a Hall of very good fighter, former title challenger, very respectable guy, even at this age in his career. Brother of Herbert Burns. I don't think this will be his last fight. I think he'll want to go out fighting a legend. Probably like a Masvidal or a Neil Magny. Not necessarily a legend, but a fight that he can win. So, Morales, I think he's going to get a win. I think he'll get a shot up the rankings. I imagine he's going to want to stay somewhat active and try to fight near the end of the year. His last fight was near the end of last year. I think he's going to try to get another one. If this isn't an absolute fucking war. But Morales, decision, 49-46 or 48-47.
I don't got a decision. I think. Let's see. I'm gonna take my biggest dog pick ever. I'm gonna say that Gilbert Burns wins this fight, and I think he does it by fourth round. Let's see, fourth round submission. He's gonna have something to prove. He lost 3 fights to very good fighters, except for you, Bilal. Fuck you. And I think he's going to have something to prove. He knows how big of an underdog he is. He's going to go out there, chip on his shoulder. He's going to, fourth round, grab that young feller like this and lock his hands, knock his lights out.
Hell yeah.
That being said, we have reached the end of this absolute snooze fest of a UFC Fight Night card. And we have some fight news to break. No, we're not breaking it. It's already been broken. But to talk about. We finally have a Khamzat DDP date. If neither of them break out and pull out of this fight. We have the biggest news of all. Islam Makhachev is vacating his belt to go fight JDM for that belt. And that is going to leave Ilia Topuria to fight Charles Oliveira for the, the lightweight title. That is now vacated by Islam. So, Islam will be fighting JDM. That fight will be announced soon. Myself and Mr. Barnes were kind of talking about the UFC 322 supposed to be in Australia. So that's the next time that we may see Volk and JDM fight. So keep an eye out for that. Rainer DeRitter and Robbie Whitaker will be fighting soon. That's pretty commonly known at this point. But we previously mentioned that Marc-Andre Barriault may have suffered a worse fate than his opponent that he crushed the skull of. Mr. Barnes, please go ahead and explain to the good people out there why that is.
On that Abu Dhabi card with Rainer DeRitter and Bobby Knuckles. Shout out Bobby Knuckles, mate. He has the privilege of fighting Shara Bullet Magomedov, which I think is a massive step down in competition for Shara Magomedov. I imagine this line is going to be around 5-1, minus 500. And I think he will be in pain very early. Shara Magomedov, he's not somebody to be trifled with. Michael Venom Page, he is a legend in the sport. And even though I picked Michael Venom Page to win, I can say this with great confidence. I don't even need to watch the film. I don't need to run it back. Shara Bullet Magomedov is going to clobberfuck Marc-Andre Barriault in Abu Dhabi.
The only place you're allowed to fight.
Bullet Magomedov is going to clubber fuck Marc-Andre Barriou in Abu Dhabi. One more time. Shara Bullet Magomedov is going to clobber fuck Marc-Andre Barriou in Abu Dhabi. That's my prediction for that fight. 3 months out. First time it's ever been done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that fight's not going to be fun for him. He might get double spinning back fisted again.
Indeed.
That's all we got for this one. It's going to be an absolute snooze fest. The Apex is a horrendous addition to the UFC tour, but every once in a while we have to suffer out a weekend of watching these dog shit fights. So that being said, we hope you guys enjoyed this one. We'll try to have this up. Today is Tuesday. I'll try to have it up on Wednesday. We appreciate all you guys for watching. Be sure to check out our sponsors, Shank It Golf, Cowboy Revolution, and W.GG. Use code CronYo Media at checkout at all three of those. The first two will give you 15% off. W.GG gives you 10. Check those guys out. Help them help us help you. That being said, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Keep your stick on the ice. Watch out for the deer, as Mr. Barnes himself would say.